It's getting to be that time. Join us as we share our list of the 12 things you should be focusing on as the camp season approaches. Camp leaders, do you often find yourself bogged down with bookkeeping, accounting, and other back office tasks, taking precious time away from what matters most, your campers? Imagine a solution that frees up your staff to focus on creating impactful and memorable experiences for your campers. That's where Bolin comes in. Bolin offers comprehensive accounting back office solutions designed specifically for camps. Our tech-enabled team handles everything from payroll and bookkeeping to financial reporting, compliance, expense management, spend control, and more, allowing your staff to passionately pursue your number one purpose. With Bolin, you can streamline your camp's financial operations, reduce stress, and ensure your team is free to make a lasting impact in campers' lives. It's time to win back your time and work with a financial partner that truly understands camps. Whether you're a for-profit, not-for-profit, overnight, or day camp, Bolin has a solution for you. Visit bolinhq.com, that's BOWLINEHQ.com, to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. The report is yours whether you sign up or not. Let Bolin take care of your accounting needs so you can focus on what truly matters, your campers. Remember what sparked your passion for camp? UltraCamp knows it's about the people, not the paperwork. That's why they built a platform to simplify your camp management. Learn more at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. Welcome to Camp Code, a podcast brought to you by Go Camp Pro. For us in the world of summer camp, there is nothing more important than well-researched, well-planned, well thought out, and well-prepared leadership training. And as we say every single time, it's at the crux of all we do, how we deliver a safe, exciting, kind, supportive, and growth-filled experience for our campers and their families. It's also how we have our staff return year after year and how we make the biggest impact on the world around us. So today, as usual, we're delving into the world of staff training, the good, the hard, and everything in between. Welcome to another episode of Camp Code. We're into April here as we record, and camp is just around the corner. So today we're going to each share our top 6 recommendations of things you should be focusing on in order to be at your camp's very best when your staff and campers arrive. But before we dig in, we're going to take that quick moment to introduce ourselves. Gabrielle, please tell us all about you.
Oh, hey, everybody. My name is Gabrielle Rill, and I'm one of the camp directors of Camp Wara, which is an all-girls camp in the Laurentian Mountains. And we focus on creating a positive environment for gender minorities. We also do that in French and English, y'all. That's true.
Y'all.
I like throwing in the y'all every once in a while.
Yes, it's for you, Ruby. We miss you.
It is.
And I'm Beth Allison, a former camp director and executive director, now a consultant, co-owner of Camp Hacker and Go Camp Pro. My pronouns are she and her, and as always, my true passion is intentional leadership training. Alrighty, so this top 12 list could go anywhere.
Yes.
So we thought it would be helpful to break it down into 3 categories. So our first category is, what should you be focusing on right now regarding your summer staff? So if that's the topic, what should you be focusing on? So for me, the first one's pretty darn obvious, but it's finalizing all those staff training plans. So you want to do things like making sure you've got a well-defined staff training outline that encompasses all you feel your staff need to know prior to the arrival of your first campers, because we all know that there's lots to learn after they get there. That also balances a lot of times for folks to get to know each other, continue to build trust, because you are so intentional. You've been doing that already throughout the school year. And you want to build in time that to give to them to share their own stories and their concerns and their joys and everything in between. You want to be sure, and this is really important because I've seen it go sideways many times when I've been visiting other camps, but you want to have an incredible opener, a way to make them feel welcome and special, part of this new community, while focusing on your mission and purpose, of course. Get creative. Use every medium you can think of: music, art, dance. This is your chance to start off role modeling your expectations of how they will wow campers on the first day. How are you going to watch out for your newbies? Are you going to assign mentors or secret big brothers or big sisters who are assigned to a specific person to watch out for them and be there for them? What are you putting into place for that? How are you making training interesting for your returning staff? How are you engaging them to help you train the new people? And of course, you want to have all that safety training planned and ready to go. So now's the time, if you haven't already, to make sure you've got your emergency evacuation procedures and fire safety drills all in place and updated. What are new things out there that are the expectations of your province, your state, the city you're in, whatever it happens to be, maybe the overarching organization. You want to make sure you're thinking about your CPR and first aid certifications and swim stuff. Have you got that all booked to get your staff trained and certified? And have you figured out how you're going to handle all those various camp emergencies, the lost child, severe weather, all of that kind of stuff? I would have somebody outside of your camp, preferably someone who is also in the industry or who is in the medical field, a doctor, a nurse, a paramedic, a police officer. Go over those emergency plans to make sure it makes sense and that you haven't missed anything. And that you want to make sure that you've figured out how to make sure you're engaging staff on all the activities they're going to be expected to lead, with that emphasis again on engaging campers and supporting them to try new things. But how are you going to make this new and exciting for returning campers and returning staff? And you want to be sure to focus on, how to teach positive reinforcement and conflict resolution and de-escalation techniques and dealing with missing home and addressing different behavioral needs, neurodiversities, all that kind of stuff, different learning abilities. So all these little pieces, you really want to make sure you've thought them through before staff training arrives in, well, for some in about a month. You want to make sure that you're leaving time to practice scenarios in your training that staff might face during camp. We've certainly discovered over the last couple of decades, and especially in the last 5 years, staff do much better when they can practice these kinds of things than if they're just listening to you speak and go on and on about things. And you want to figure out how you're going to be assessing staff learning. Are you going to have them complete a quiz or an assessment at the end or throughout training to confirm their understanding of all these things? Are you going to leave time for questions at the end of each day or at the end of each training section? Are you providing them an open space, maybe at the end of training for them to ask questions of one another? But how are you kind of assessing staff learning and making sure that they know what they're doing? So that's number one, is figuring out staff training stuff, your last little bit. And your second thing for me is making sure that you're really completing the staff onboarding and communication. So you've sent out your contracts and your forms early. You've ensured everybody's received those tax forms and necessary certification, background checks, all of that. But you want to make sure to set a strict deadline for submission. I would say ideally 4 to 6 weeks before camp or even earlier. Some of you may have already completed this if you start earlier in the year than we do. In Ontario, usually it's the 1st of July when the campers arrive. But I know that I was on calls today with camp people who are starting in May 17th. I think their staff comes up for training. So different parts of the world start in different places. Have you created your staff portal or your resource hub? So using things like Google or Drive or Dropbox or some sort of camp management software to store all those things, the handbooks, the schedules, the packing list, your FAQs for easy access, and that you're updating that with any last minute changes. Have you scheduled one-on-one or small group calls with new staff members to ensure that they understand their roles and you're addressing their concerns and then they get to know each other before they arrive? And are you doing those regular pre-camp updates? So that schedule for sending things to staff via text or email or what internal app that you're using, with reminders about camp prep and training and what to expect, and including little things like just little short things and tidbits about how to engage with kids or maintain your mental health or navigate difficult situations. Of course, you're going to go into far more detail in staff training, but you just want to get their minds kind of percolating before they show up. And then finally, the one thing that I always would forget to do until it was like right at camp start, but confirming dietary or accommodation needs. So if your staff member requires any kind of special accommodations for dietary preferences or mobility issues, whatever, we want to make sure that the camp is ready to provide for these needs well in advance of staff's arrival. So you're kind of thinking about your staff training, those extra little tidbits. Are you tightening it up and making it really impressive and really thoughtful and intentional? And then what's your communication with staff right about now? And that you're on top of all of that. So those are my two pieces. What have you got for your staff, Gab?
I was just going to say, listen, that was our recap for a podcast, and Beth did it. It's wonderful. And if I was a camp director that was feeling a little overwhelmed and I heard Beth's list and that felt like a lot, I am sure there's an AI program that can listen to it and create bullet points, because it is such a clear and complete list. It's a checklist that you just created, which is brilliant and wonderful. And it's very you, and I appreciate it. I'm going to share a
I like
couple of things.
lists.
Yeah, you know what? You do. And I like
I do.
concepts. So I'm going to talk about
Perfect.
Yes. So there's a couple
We
of
are a
things.
good balance.
We are. There's a couple of things that over the years we've been developing more and more before our staff come to camp. So one of the things is what we've called Spring Series, where we have 2 speakers that do an online course with our staff. It's pretty much, each spring series is an hour and a half, 45 minutes for the speaker, and then 45 minutes for breakout rooms, group discussions. And we pick topics that are close to our value system and that we think is going to help support our staff. And one is, we try to make it personal to them, and then 2, make it the other one professional. So this year we have one that is called Spilling Tea or Getting Burned. So as I mentioned, we do try to create a positive environment, but to be honest, creating a positive environment is messy. It's hard. It's difficult. It's uncomfortable. You have to be vulnerable. Yuck. You got to develop trust with yourself, trust with others. It's not easy. So we have somebody that's speaking with us about that. And then the other person that's coming in is talking about learning mindset, where I think a lot of our listeners know that my feeling about learning is I love it. I'm excited about it. But sometimes staff members come in a little bit brain drained from school and a little bit not on the type of learning that we want them to learn. This is stuff that they're going to be using almost immediately, and they need to engage in a certain way. So these are 2 topics that we chose. And what has been beneficial for us from doing this is, one, it is in their contract. So it's not a volunteer thing. This is part of their summer training. It sets the tone and the expectation for us before they come to camp. So in hiring, of course, these values are listed out, but before they even arrive, they know, oh, we actually walk the talk. And the feedback with this, we started doing this post-COVID, basically. And the feedback that we've received mostly from our new staff members is how impressed their parents and families were from these talks. Because we try to make them fun, of course. We try to make them very camp, but we try to really think of the listener and take it as an opportunity to get to connect with other people. So this has been really positive. On a camp director's note, what I see is a positive effect on also our returning staff. We do talk about these things in their hiring chat. This is almost like a pre-reinforcement before they come to camp. So this has been wonderful for us. The other thing is, we do, like a lot of camps do now, because Zoom is quite accessible to a lot of people, or even Discord, if that's the platform you're using, or Slack, is a pack and chat. That's something that we've been hosting for quite a few years now, where we just basically pack and chat as we're going along for camp. It's mostly not just before camp. It's usually, at least 2 or 3 weeks before camp. So they're not actually packing, but they're just getting items out. What we ask is, we do ask some returning staff members to join us, and we specifically ask for 2nd and 3rd year staff members that are new to our organization, because they're such a great sort of individual that will say, I didn't understand why I needed so many pairs of underwear. They're not being weird about it. It's because X, Y, and Z, So it's just like, and there's lots of giggles, and it's really, really fun. And so pack and chats, I recommend. The other thing that we do is we have mentors who are people that meet with activity heads or people that do specific jobs that need to do a little bit of mental preparation before they come to camp. So we have mentor chats, and then we have coaches that come to camp. So mentors are before, coaches are on camp. And those mentors, of course, have a facilitator that creates, guidelines on what we want them to talk to these individuals, but they're mostly volunteers that were past activity heads like rock climbing or kayaking or this kind of thing. And they can go over levels with them, or they say, hey, what's the thing that's freaking you out the most? And it's just a way of creating connection and bond, but also again, setting expectations. All of these little things just add up to in a non-stressful environment, because it's almost like a fire hose when you get to camp of amount of information that you're learning and doing. So being able to sort of plant the seeds beforehand, I think is just really, really helpful. The other cool thing is, as we're doing this, Camp Work could be a little bit better at advertising some of the things that we do. I know it's something we're working on, but I was talking to a parent the other day about her kiddo that's coming, and she had a little bit of a hard time last year. So we're just strategizing this year. She's a great kid. And, mom's being friendly. So she was asking me what we're doing. So I talked about Spring Series a little bit. And she was just like, I've heard about your training. And I was like, oh, right. Like I'm like, oh yeah, we did post that, little screenshot of us doing this last year. But it's such a wonderful marketing tool for our families. And we know that building trust with our families is so important. So that's sort of pre stuff. I will just say another pre thing that I think is really important to do is nip certain staff behaviors in the bud right now. So if you have a staff member that's taking a long time to respond, or they don't have their forms in yet, this is my cleanup time. This is when I have a conversation with them. I obviously assess first, then deploy, find out why they're having a hard time. Could be school, could be all that kind of stuff. And then we educate them before they come to camp. It's okay that you have other things going on. It's okay that sometimes you can't meet deadlines. But what's not okay is not informing us before the deadline. You can let us know. School's really busy right now. I can't do the camp welcome video that we ask your staff members to do right now. Is it okay if I do it at a different time? We don't mind that. But if you're seeing certain behaviors, don't wait till camp happens. Take care of it now. And I have let go of 2 staff members because I'm not going to deal with that before camp. Is that a privilege? Yes, it is. But would I have to get rid of them at camp? Yes, I would have. And we're trying to build a strong organization. So this kind of behavior is not acceptable. I try to come at it with kindness and understanding, but I know I'll tell you where my mental state is. My mental state is I want to avoid it because I have so much other stuff to do. So try not to avoid these things, nip it in the bud. It's a good learning opportunity. They are young adults. They're learning. We can have some elasticity, have some grace for them, but they have to know what's acceptable, what's not, and what's an alternative way of managing their forms or getting things on time. So nip that in the bud. The other thing I would say for staff is do your hiring of having a guest speaker. So I know there's some camp directors that you're doing it all. You are the person that is running the sessions. You are making the posters. If you've listened to Beth and myself, we try to suggest that you don't do it all, but sometimes it feels like you are. At the very least, however, even though as amazing as you are, try to bring in a guest speaker into your organization. And if you're not quite sure how to guide that person, may I suggest to hire an improv troupe, maybe 2 people, to come in and do an hour and a half training with your staff. They can do everything from how to create a safe enough environment to take healthy risks, to celebrate mistakes, to being silly. In the age of perfectionism, Instagram, filters, improv troupes are amazing. Team, I don't love improv there. I said it. It's not my fave. And I'm in a province that improv is really huge. Like it's almost like hockey games. And I'm also in a province that has hockey games are big. So maybe that wasn't a great, connection to, but it's big. There's like actual games. And I sometimes find them cringy and sometimes find them a little, but I will say that we did hire 2 people last year to come and do improv with our staff. And it was phenomenal. They're typically quite reasonable, really kind, and they just want to make people feel good and safe. They also typically will teach you how to not be stereotypical when you're on stage. And I think that's something that we're trying to educate our staff in. And they can help also teach you how to talk to kids about not being stereotypical and why is that important. So I love having always guest speakers. sometimes they don't have to be camp people. They don't have to know they don't have to be the best leader in the world, but improv has been something that's been wonderful for us, and we're excited this year. We're actually doing a 3-hour improv thing, and it's going to be very exciting.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool, cool. Well, I make long lists. Gab is also an overachiever because she was supposed to give you 2 tips, and I think she gave you 27. So you're very lucky you got some great, great
It
ideas
was
for
like
your
2
staff.
clumpy ideas, like they're clumps, right?
I know. Me too. I was clumping for
Right,
sure.
we were clumping, exactly.
All right, we're going to take a short break to hear from our fabulous sponsor, and we'll be right back. Camp leaders, do you often find yourself bogged down with bookkeeping, accounting, and other back office tasks, taking precious time away from what matters most, your campers? Imagine a solution that frees up your staff to focus on creating impactful and memorable experiences for your campers. That's where Bolin comes in. Bolin offers comprehensive accounting back office solutions designed specifically for camps. Our tech-enabled team handles everything from payroll and bookkeeping to financial reporting, compliance, expense management, spend control, and more, allowing your staff to passionately pursue your number one purpose. With Bolin, you can streamline your camp's financial operations, reduce stress, and ensure your team is free to make a lasting impact in campers' lives. It's time to win back your time and work with a financial partner that truly understands camps. Whether you're a for-profit, not-for-profit, overnight, or day camp, Bolin has a solution for you. Visit bolinhq.com, that's BOWLINEHQ.com, to learn more and book a free 2-hour financial diagnostic. The report is yours whether you sign up or not. Let Bolin take care of your accounting needs so you can focus on what truly matters, your campers. A special offer from UltraCamp for Camp Code listeners. Get ready for next season's staff recruiting with the Camp Experience Wheel, a powerful tool to prevent burnout, boost retention, and make sure your staff feels supported. Download it for free at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. You need tools that work as hard as you do. UltraCamp's platform is packed with powerful features, keeping your camp running smoothly and efficiently, so you can focus on what truly matters. With UltraCamp's powerful tools, you're in control. Automate tasks like registration and billing, easily manage authorized pickups, create custom payment plans for your camp, generate reports to get key insights, streamline hiring with built-in background checks. Get back to what you love. UltraCamp helps you spend less time on admin tasks and more time creating unforgettable camp experiences. Ready to see if UltraCamp is the perfect fit? Schedule your free personalized demo at ultracampmanagement.com/campcode. All right, we are back. And for our next set of tips, which will probably clump and be much more than 2 each, we're going to talk about what you should be thinking about now as you prepare for your campers and families. So I've gone very practical today with my ideas. So for campers and families right now, you should be really focusing on finalizing the details of your pre-camp information. So detailed welcome packets, making sure things that are included are camp schedule, your times with activities and meals and quiet hours. Parents and kids like to know that kind of stuff up front. Of course, you want your packing list. Gab was talking about that earlier, but you want to make sure that you're really highlighting those recommended and prohibited items for those parents that'll read, including items like swimwear and sunscreen and bug spray. Better yet, make a video with some summer staff explaining all of this as they pack for camp. So all the fun things that they want to bring or don't want to bring and why. Make sure that your medical forms are also up to date with any provincial or state changes. So you want to ensure parents fill out every single section, especially emergency contacts, allergies, and those daily medications. And I would really make sure that your medical forms say, we just want to do the best for your child. So please tell us everything. I don't know. I think every year we would get children, their parents didn't want to fill stuff out because they thought we'd treat their kids differently. But by knowing what they had, we could prepare better and give them better support. So making that really easy for parents, but also making sure they understand that you want all the information that they are able to give you. You want to have also really clear direction and instructions on your arrival and your departure stuff, drop off and pickup times, locations, and what to do if parents are running late. You don't want your child to be the one who's left and every other camper has left, but maybe they ran into trouble. So what do they do if that's the kind of situation, or, construction, or they're sitting behind an accident or something has happened? But and include those camp contact information stuff. So camp office details, emergency contacts. We, the professionals, often move houses and phone numbers at this time of year. So make sure that you're sending out information so everybody knows where to find you if they want to call. I mean, I'm sure your email stays the same, but a lot of phone numbers change when people move up to camp. I would also be taking the time to send out those personalized emails or letters to each family to confirm the camper spot and provide that introduction to the camp's leadership. That's you folks, and emphasizing all your commitment to that incredible experience you're going to give to the kids. And then, of course, providing that camp app or portal details. So if you're using an app or website for families to track either their camper's progress or message the counselors or view camp photos, make sure that those login details are ready well in advance and don't have any glitches. And what can you put into place to make this easy on you and super simple and reassuring for parents and families? I would say figure out a way to review camper health and safety information so it's easy and readily available to those who are going to need it. So decide now who's going to review individual camper health forms and look for those medical conditions, make a note of any special accommodations, and ensure that your training that you've planned for staff deals with some of these specific medical emergencies that you may see this summer. Decide now, if you haven't already, who's creating that medical action plan for each camper who needs medication, including when and how it should be administered, and who's responsible and where it's stored and all that kind of stuff. And then ensuring that you have access to a qualified medical professional. So confirming with all those camp nurses or camp doctors when they're supposed to arrive at camp, what your expectations are, how you can help them prepare and feel comfortable and welcome. Maybe you can hold a Zoom call with all of them, especially if you're trading nurses every week, so that everybody's on the same page and camp runs pretty smoothly for the staff. And prepare those emergency kits. So this is the time of year, like double check your emergency kits are well stocked. First aid kits, bandages, antiseptic wipes, pain relievers, sunscreen, bug spray, all that kind of stuff. Plus, of course, specific medication for allergies like EpiPens. So I'm just being very practical for a change. I'm usually not that way, but I just think it's a good time of year to get that kind of stuff out of the way so that you can focus on the people when they get there. Gab, what do you got for campers and families?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I love that. I think practical is really important. A lot of us already have the wheel. We don't need to reinvent it. I think the number one thing I get from camp directors as a graphic designer or a visual communicator is the way I like to describe it, is families don't read. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. The truth is also camp directors write a lot because there's a lot of information that needs to be said. So one of my suggestions is take your content, the important stuff that, there's the final forms that our families fill out, and there's final information emails that we send. Take that content, put it through AI, ask AI the following questions, or say, my families typically don't read this information. What can I do to make this clear and more pertinent? Do you have any other questions for me to help you do the job that I'm asking you to do? So those 3 questions, you can take that content and it's going to give you a bunch of suggestions on how to probably tighten up your text. And then once that's done, you can ask it to also suggest, would images be helpful, et cetera, et cetera. If you don't want to go that far, just stick with the text. But sometimes it really is about, a lot of the times, subheaders or headers say things like registration information. And instead of saying registration information, or let's just say arrival day information, sometimes it should be just information that you're giving right at the top, which is on arrival day, come between 10 and 11 a.m. That's the title. And then you can go, they're going to get that it's about arrival day. So just shifting some language, maybe using AI is going to help with that information documents. Things to do right now, besides what Beth was talking about, is looking at those forms and seeing if there's any yellow, orange, red flags that you need to contact families about before they arrive to camp. This is going to prevent a lot of issues on arrival day or 3 days into camp when you're noticing a kid is maybe a particular eater or having a hard time staying in their bed or doesn't ride the bus very well. Anything that has those flags, contact the families beforehand, have a quick conversation so that we're setting clear expectations before the kids do come to camp. The the other thing that I would say that I would do for a family is that the camp is fun. So pump up your staff before the kids arrive. That's your biggest selling point. You might have an awesome water slide or a zip line, or maybe you have a hobby farm. Oh, I wish Boro had a hobby farm. I digress. Maybe you have all those cool things, but your selling point is your staff. What school do they go to? What are they excited about? What are the memories they're hoping to create with the campers? Why are they choosing to come to camp? This is wonderful marketing, but it gets kids and families excited for camp. But more importantly, it does build trust because these are the people that are going to be caring for your kids. So pump up your staff before your families come to your camp.
I love that. Sounds wonderful. And Woro's doing a great job of doing that already. They've been introducing their staff on social media for a while now and talking about them and with photos and, the things they'll be doing this summer. And that's just the beginning. Well, parts of what Woro will do.
It's the beginning and not the funny haha thing, but the thing I just found out a couple of days ago is one of my 17-year-olds said, I thought that it was always supposed, these Instagram posts are always supposed to be posted at 7:00. And I said, oh, I mean, mostly, I was like, why? And she's like, well, the other day it wasn't posted at that time. It was posted later. I was like, well, it sometimes happens. But they're like, the staff are also waiting to see whose pictures are going to be posted,
Right.
who's coming. So your staff gets excited as well, but it's a family event, like it's just fun to see who's coming to camp. So.
And you're building those connections with all of your people and getting people excited.
Totally.
Okay. Third and final little section is how are you preparing for yourself? What personal preparation should you be doing for you? So I do have a practical list, but then I also have one that's not as practical.
Yeah, but practical and a Beth list. I love it.
So just so that you have peace of mind before the summer starts and before you wind up getting into any of these problems, which hopefully you won't. But this is the time to be reviewing your insurance policy and your liability coverage so that it's covering all of activities, anything new that you've put in, or making sure that your insurance company hasn't changed it. So, we only insure you for this part of your activity, but not the other part anymore. And they didn't bother to tell you. So you just want to make sure all of that's up to date and update any policies or coverage if it's necessary, including those accident waivers for families. The other thing to do is now's the time to implement those new safety protocols if they're needed. So review health and safety guidelines for any potential updates like we had to do during COVID-19, or maybe there's new local regulations for things like the measles or whatever it is. And we're going to be talking about that in a couple of weeks. But this could include like adjusting your group sizes or your sanitation practices or travel protocols if you're going on trip, or if you're day camp and you go, into the city for a bit or go to museums or pools or something like that. So you want to make sure that that's all in place before you get to camp, because then you have your brain ready to deal with all of the other things. Make sure you're establishing your guidelines for communication with families. So you want to be clear now about how often and through what methods you're going to communicate with your families. Are you sending out weekly newsletters? Are you sending out photos via an app that you're using? How are you going to give them emergency notifications, like there's been a storm or the camp has to close for today because of whatever reason? And this will manage those expectations and reduce anxiety for parents. But what are those guidelines for communication? And then, of course, training your staff on those. So they need to be fully aware of all of that, but also aware of your camp's behavior policies. So what are your behavioral expectations, and how do they enforce those rules respectfully and consistently? So you've got to have that clear system of handling conflict and what staff are responsible for resolving issues and all of that. So that you want to have before the summer starts, because something will happen at some point during the summer that you'll need to be able to lean on those. And my last one of the first part is to establish those clear I don't know, grievance and complaint procedures. So ensuring that everybody, parents, staff, campers, know how to report issues to you and that there's a clear and fair process in place to handle those concerns. So that's that. And then my sixth and final tip would be for you to prepare mentally and physically before camp starts. So now's the time to create a balanced personal schedule. So you want to allocate time right now for sleep and physical activity and self-care to ensure that you are rested and energized for the summer. So are you doing yoga? Are you hiking? Do you have a morning routine to start your day with clarity and focus? But you want to create that balanced personal schedule because we know a lot of the balance goes right out the window when the campers arrive and the staff arrive. And then develop, of course, now a personal stress management plan. So plan ahead for how you're going to manage that stress during peak times. So sometimes you're handling multiple emergencies all at once, or you're trying to manage difficult staff dynamics, but those kinds of things. How are you going to help yourself when that hits the fan? Are you practicing mindfulness or meditation techniques to stay grounded? What works for you? I would also take the time now to reach out to a mentor or a fellow camp director. Connect yourself with somebody who's been in your shoes or is currently in your shoes to discuss strategies for managing all of those things, staff and camper relationships, getting advice on how to balance responsibilities, all of that. So turn to the community and see if you can find people who can be there for you. And the last two little bits are review your leadership goals. So, what kind of leader do you want to be during camp season? And set yourself some goals, like maybe you want to enhance team communication or foster a positive camp culture, or maybe you want to ensure that you are visible and approachable to all the campers and the staff. But what are your goals for this summer in terms of your leadership? And finally, and probably the hardest one, is how are you going to prepare for the unexpected? Because it always happens, and learn how to go with the flow when challenges come up. So we want to prioritize problem solving over perfection to keep things running smoothly. But what are you going to do to maintain that flexibility and adaptability through the summer so that you have something left in the tank to give back to the people that you're caring for? All right. So those are my 6 tips with all the little sub
I'd
tips
love to do
underneath.
yeah, there's just a couple tips that I love the stress management plan. I think that's a future podcast. I would really like to get into that a little bit more. So here are a couple of mine for self. I would start with planning your vacation in the fall/winter, whenever you typically take your vacation. If you don't take your vacation, we hear you, we get you, we worry you, but we need to create time for you. So this is something to look forward to. It's also something to, when you are in the middle of it and it's tough and it's rough, it's nice to know that this is not your whole life. There's a vacation at the end of this. There's other things that are happening. Things will be okay. But so I would say plan a vacation. There's also, I reached out to a couple of camp friends and I asked them the question, what do you do before you go to camp? How do you prepare? And so one of my good pals, Shauna Joy, said, I watch reality TV for team building activities. And also I know that pretty much what's happening on TV, it will not happen as worse as it is at camp. So it gives me perspective. She likes Survivor and The Challenge. She's like, don't tell anybody it's The Challenge because that's embarrassing. But I am telling everybody The Challenge. And actually, I don't watch that much reality TV, not because I don't want to. It's just it doesn't come up for me very often. But one of my employees, Shani, had introduced me to The Challenge. And she was like, you'll probably not like this. Hey, everybody, I had a literal camp director clipboard, and I was feverishly taking notes on different ideas I could do. So it's wonderful. So watch some reality TV. And then I agree with Beth with the mentor piece, the person piece. It's important to have a person that you can contact, make sure that that person is locked in, and that you have your special foods and snacks that you usually have at camp is something I say almost every year. And I think it's really, really helpful. It's nice. And it's important to eat, camp directors. It's not time to skip meals because some of us get hangry and we just don't need to do that to our staff and our kids. So make sure you have those snacks, watch some reality TV, and plan a vacation.
I love that. That sounds great.
Yeah, I think so. Being camp director is so easy. You just need to do those things.
That's right. And you're done.
Yes, yes, yes.
And our podcast is now irrelevant, but there you go.
It is. It is.
It is time for your famous recap.
Yay. Recap, recap, recap. Okay. Everybody, campers, families, the reason why we do what we do. Beth and I have a couple of things. Actually, Beth has a very, very well-defined list of things that you could do for your families before coming to camp. I recommend that you listen to that. And then on a side note, with all of those documents, maybe use some AI to reduce some of the reading or make it a little bit clearer for our families. I know it's frustrating when they don't read this, use AI to try to help you out when you're doing some stuff. When it comes to our staff, my gosh, Beth and I could just talk for days and days and days about staff. And that's why we are here is for staff
For 12
training
seasons.
ideas. Yes. So listen, it really falls down into three major categories. Category number one is before you go to camp, what are some of the things that we can do to create connections with our staff, create information for our staff, and make sure that our staff are as prepared as possible before they come. Number two, when they arrive, we want them to feel welcomed. We want them to feel a sense of belonging. We want to wow them because that's what we want to do for them so that they can do it for our kids. And lastly, training. It's the podcast. It's what we do. It's what we talk about. We never ever want to overwhelm you with the information that we're providing you. We're just hoping that you grab some of the information so it's helpful. So in this process, just make sure that you're looking at it, you're seeing what's helpful. Don't try to do it all. It's not necessary. Just pick and choose. It's a buffet. You don't have to eat the whole thing. Just pick and choose what you're hungry for. And then lastly, yourself. It is actually something that we tend during this time of year to not pay attention to. Our laundry list is longer than the laundry list of podcasts that we have done over the last 10 years. It is, you could always do more, but you're the captain of the ship. You have other captains that you work with, and then you have other people that you work for, and you have little kiddos that you take care of. You need to be also okay. So taking a moment, taking some time, centering yourself, and also thinking, what are my goals for the summer is such a wonderful way to frame that you get to get something out of this summer as well. It's not just for other people. We want you to grow. We want you to learn. We want you to have fun, and we care about you. And thank you for the work that you're doing.
Well, wasn't that a lovely recap and send off for people?
Yeah, it's exciting. We're all getting ready for the summer.
It is exciting.
Then talk to me in September. When you say, can we do a podcast yet? I'm like, no, but I have to sleep some more. I'm not ready.
I need 6 weeks of sleep. Yeah. Then we can start. All right. So this is our third last podcast of season 12.
Yes.
And you can, of course, tell us your thoughts using on this episode or on any episodes we've ever done. You can do it on social media using the hashtag camp code, or you can email us directly and we'll give you that information in a little bit. But let us know any topics you'd like to discuss or guests that you recommend that we have on the show. We want to share your great leadership training tips as well as the ones that we think you might like to hear. And if you found our podcast to be useful, we would love it if you'd leave us a rating and a review in your favorite podcasting app. Gab, how can they reach out to you if they would like to learn more about what you're doing?
Yeah, they can check out where I work at waro.com, and they can reach out to me at info@waro.com. Waro is OUAREAU.com.
Thank you. I'm Beth at gocamp.pro, or our website is gocamp.pro. For our final two podcasts, we're going to be talking to some experts in two different fields. So one's an epidemiologist on how to keep campers safe this summer, and staff, of course, and what you need to be sure you have in place for that. And we're going to also be diving into tools to create stronger and more positive and braver, kinder environments to help staff and campers reimagine those spaces that foster healthy relationships, belonging, and inclusion. So we're really, really excited. It's a little bit backwards. We had hoped to have today's episode as our last podcast to send you off for the summer. But Gab had a wee bit of an accident. I don't know if you're watching, you can see the big sling that she's wearing, and she needed some healing time. So we needed to reschedule around that. And of course, our experts' busy lives. So we're going to record those two episodes in the coming weeks. And we're really looking forward to those conversations. Our final segment on each podcast is a best practice for leadership training. And again, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know what they are. But this week's best practice is going to come from Gabrielle.
Hey, everybody. So for me, one of the best things that I've done in my lifetime is volunteer for my provincial association and my national association. And I know that volunteering is a privilege to do. Not everybody has the time or the finances to do it, but it created connections. And I'm an experiential learner, like a lot of us are. And it was such an investment. It's also created the network that I have of support around me. The thing that I want to share is that sometimes we feel like we can't contact our state or provincial or national associations because we're just that little camp, or, who am I to contact for this? They are there for you, and not just for support in crisis, but also in support for learning, as well as for support in just some questions that you might have. Maybe you're afraid of the financial turmoils that we're going through, and you want to know what maybe the association, what their thoughts are on that. Or perhaps there's new fun diseases that we're all going to be challenged with this summer, and you're nervous about it and you're not quite sure what to do. You can contact your associations. I'm not trying to plug associations, but I'm trying to say that you're not alone in what you're doing. And the way I learned was by volunteering because of being my experiential piece. But because I am part of an association, you have every right to write them, contact them, and ask questions. And they're there, they're excited to help you. And it's kind of like a staff member coming to ask for help. You're excited to help them. They get a lot of people that are frustrated and angry with them, which is fine. Just like camp directors do with their staff members and parents, we deal with that. But isn't it nice when a parent says, "Hey, I was wondering about how to help my kid out with this," or when a staff member says, "Hey, my kids are, they don't talk during meal times. I'm just not quite sure what to do." That's such a lovely conversation, and that's how our associations, they're designed to help us out. So if you're a young camp director, young camp pro, and you feel a little intimidated to approach those associations, do not feel intimidated. They love camps. They want to support you. They want to see you successful. This is sometimes a time where you have some questions and you just don't know who to go to. And maybe you don't have the finances to hire a consultant. Reach out to your association. They might be able to partner you up with somebody, or just have a friendly chat on the phone.
I love that. And let's be clear, Gab has not only volunteered for her provincial and federal camping association, she's also volunteered for my provincial association
That is correct.
and for the International Camping Congress as
That is
well.
correct. But the truth is like, it's really how I've learned, and it's
Mhm.
really how I've built a connection. And now I have young camp professionals underneath me at Waro, and I'm sending them off to conferences on their own because I want them to build, those connections. But it's they really have helped me out, and their whole goal is to make camps a positive part of our communities. So I've gotten so much out of them, and I'm so appreciative of the work that they do. And they get a lot of smack too. It's not easy being on those associations, but I appreciate it. And I think I would have been intimidated to make those phone calls. I really do. And so I'm just telling you, from being on the other side of the fence, they want those phone calls. They want those emails. Ask your questions. They're there for you.
That is a fantastic best practice. All right. Camp Code is part of the Go Camp Pro podcast network, and you can check out all our other podcasts at gocamp.pro/podcasts. And there's some great ones out this year. Thank you again for joining us on this journey as we all work together to give our campers, staff, and families and camps the best experience possible. Thanks for the listening, friends.